Hi, everyone, here in North America and around the world, and blessings to everyone in Florida after giant Hurricane Ian. It's great to be back with you live again and with Chocolate, who I'm going to let free. And I want to thank everybody because we're approaching a breakthrough of 220,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. And you know, something curious happened 2 days ago on Monday, September 26th. This brand new logo for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Manager for Aviation, suddenly popped up in Twitter and emails. And you can plainly see the black, blue, crimson, and gray color codes for human flight technologies over North and South America. But down in the left-hand corner over the Pacific Ocean is a sombrero-shaped UFO with windows around its circumference. The new DNI UFO logo is very similar to this historic sombrero-shaped craft allegedly photographed in Passaic, New Jersey on July 31st, 1952. And here is the huge, sprawling message from the DNI NIM-Aviation Executive Director, Major General Daniel L. Simpson, who doesn't say one thing about the sombrero-shaped UFO in his new logo. Here's what his new website does say, quote, "Welcome. Our team works diligently to keep partners and stakeholders informed on key air domain intelligence efforts. We developed this site as a resource hub featuring background on NIM aviation and up-to-date, informative, unclassified intelligence and products. We particularly welcome all existing and future partners whose collaborations continue to strengthen our global air domain. As our team continues to grow, we encourage you all to visit our site frequently to learn more about our role in integrating intelligence to safeguard the global air community," close quote. By yesterday morning, Tuesday, September 27th, only 24 hours later, the UFO had been removed from the DNI logo without comment, leaving me to wonder who is shouting at who in the Pentagon and why mixed signals. At the end of July, I signed off for August vacation like I did last year. But the difference in 2022 is that I was also invited to speak at the September 9th to 11th UFO Congress in Barcelona, Spain, where I was honored for half a century of investigations and productions about the UFO and ET phenomena. So I plan to extend my August vacation for an extra 2 weeks and be back live here in Albuquerque by September 14th. On Sunday, September 11th, I was on the UFO Congress stage presenting my 90-minute special presentation, Non-Humans, Friendly, Neutral, Hostile? And the UFO Congress presented me with a crystal obelisk in honor of their half-century tribute to me. On stage, I joined former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, Chris Mellon, along with Robin Titan and Ellen, the founders and directors of the 6th Barcelona UFO Congress. I appreciate the Congress honoring my 43 years of trying to get to the bottom of the whole complex UFOs and ET phenomena. And in a few minutes, I'm going to share with you a discussion that I had with Chris Mellon in Barcelona. But first, I want to tell you what happened trying to return from Spain. The flight from Barcelona to Madrid's huge 7,500-acre international airport went fine on September 12th, and I thought I would be home in time to produce the September 14th Earthfiles YouTube channel broadcast. But upon entering the Madrid airport's gigantic science fiction interior of high vaulted ceilings in all kinds of colors, I learned that the green neon S terminal, where my next flight from Madrid to Dallas, Texas would leave, was notorious for being more than a half hour of walk running amid a sea of other neon-colored numbers and letters that confuse most travelers. I kept asking, "Do you speak English? How do I get to S10?" And people just kept pointing to go further, keep looking for the green S concourse signs. Finally, I could see the boarding gate, and I had my boarding pass in my right hand as I ran up to the entrance, with many other passengers also holding boarding passes running up behind me. As I reached forward with my boarding pass, a very large woman in a blue uniform in the airline suddenly lifted her arms right in front of me, and she yelled, "Cut off! Cut off here!" She kept doing this, cut off here. 35 of us were holding boarding passes and yelling to enter the plane where we were barred from that scheduled flight. I would learn later from a Madrid airport customer service person, quote, "The airlines keep overbooking and just cut off paying passengers when the flight is full," close quote. There were no flights to Dallas, Texas until the next afternoon, not getting into Albuquerque until near midnight, September 14th. The airline didn't offer any help, but an airport security worker helped me get a voucher for a motel a half hour from the airport that served cold spaghetti to eat. And I can't help but wonder if that's where I got the COVID that tested positive after I got home and has made me so sick since midnight of September 16th. And my dear friend Serena Taylor from Conscious Life Expo cheered me up yesterday by sending these beautiful flowers and the beautiful heart balloon, along with a note to me especially, "Down with COVID, up with light." Serena, I couldn't agree more, and hope all of you join in that cheer. Down with COVID, up with light. And beyond the horrible COVID that I've been having to cope with, let's go back a few weeks to July 13th, when Politico headlined under Defense News, quote, "House votes to make it easier to report UFOs," provoking retired DIA analyst Luis Elizondo to say, quote, "This legislation may open the floodgates," close quote, meaning open up more whistleblowers to talk. In mid-July 2022, U.S. Representative Mike Gallagher, Republican congressman from Wisconsin's 8th District, introduced this amendment to the fiscal year 2023 National Defense Authorization Act that would give government employers and contractors immunity from reprisal for coming forward about UFO encounters and programs, but they still could not talk to me or other reporters. It would just mean they could talk to their higher-ups about UFOs without penalties. The last week of August 2022, before I left to speak at the Barcelona UFO Congress, this headline appeared in a variety of media, quote, "Congress admits UFOs not man-made, says threats increasing exponentially," close quote. Vice's Motherboard reported, quote, "Buried deep in a report that's an addendum to the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023. A congressional report distinguishes, quote, between UFOs that are human in origin and those that are not and are defined as unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena," close quote. Those of you who have been continuing and coming to my Earthfiles YouTube channel the past few years know my description of the Defense Intelligence Agency analyst who met with me in December of 1999 and told me there were 3 competing extraterrestrial civilizations in conflict on Earth, and some were blonde Nordics who liked to base themselves on Earth beneath the bottoms of the oceans and lakes and seas. And that would be the unidentified aerospace undersea phenomena now finally discussed in the fiscal year 2023 congressional report. But now what we're learning for the first time is, quote, Congress declaring UFOs an imminent threat, but not explaining what kind of threat UFOs now pose to our planet that U.S. government and military sources have not made public before. Those headlines were on my mind as the plane landed in Barcelona on September 8th. I hope to interview Christopher Mellon on September 9th in the Barcelona hotel in collaboration with my media friends, Alan Steinfeld from New Realities in New York City, working with photographer and documentary filmmaker James Carman, who produced the UFO abductee film Hidden Hand. All of us were working with Neil Gar, who is producing the Portal to Ascension Conference this coming April 21st to the 23rd of 2023 in San Diego. Tickets are now available at www.ascensionconference.com. In Barcelona, Christopher Mellon, now 65, was being honored by the UFO Congress for his work since 2017 in bringing more information public about UFOs. Mr. Mellon had been Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence from November 1999 until January 2002 during the Clinton and George W. Bush administrations. In that capacity, Mr. Mellon was responsible for, quote, policy and programmatic oversight of information assurance, critical infrastructure protection, security, counterintelligence, and information operations strategy and integration, close quote. Chris Mellon has also stated that he was the source who provided the 3 Pentagon UFO videos, including the Tic Tac, the Gimbal, and Go Fast, which made front-page headlines in the New York Times on December 16, 2017, entitled Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program. Like a spy movie, Mr. Mellon alleges he met with an individual in a parking lot of the Pentagon and was handed a package containing the 3 videos recorded by U.S. Navy pilots between 2004 and 2015. Mr. Mellon, thank you for being here on Earthfiles today. And you know, it was only about a couple of months ago, in July 2022, that Representative Mike Gallagher, he's ranking member of the Subcommittee on Military Personnel in the House, represents the 8th District in Wisconsin. And he introduced an amendment for the fiscal year 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. Federal agencies and contractors working with the government would be precluded from taking actions, including suspending security clearances for those who report unidentified aerial phenomena. Can you take, let's say, a real-world scenario where there is a pilot who has just flown and comes back and reports, and they have radar, and it is an encounter with something that is definitely not human-made, and he is asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement today? How would events change if this amendment becomes law in 2023?
There's legislation in both the House and Senate, and there's some differences between them. Part of what is motivating this is that Congress asked DOD, insisted that they create an office for all UAP reports from across the Defense Department, all the services and the agencies. That organization was formed, and the personnel in that organization, however, and have a sense that they're still not getting all the information. The bigger problem was really one of stigma and people being afraid to report anything just because it would damage their career to begin with. You know, a guy returns from a carrier, lands on the deck, it's like, am I going to tell them what I just saw out there and risk not getting promoted? An even more acute problem in the Air Force, which is really hostile to this issue culturally. It continues to be, and I encountered that when I was in the Defense Department. There are a lot of allegations and concerns that the UAP task force and its successor, now called ARROW, which is going to have a new name after this defense bill is passed, that they're running into roadblocks. They're not getting in all the information. They're aware of many rumors, many allegations about things like Roswell, that there somewhere out there exists or may exist within the aerospace industry or under the CIA or something, some sub rosa operation that has been run off the books, that Congress is not informed of, that wasn't necessarily appropriated properly. And so they're trying to ensure that those people can come forward without fear of reprisal and share whatever information they have.
And yet, as a reporter, the last 43 years just trying to understand an evolution from animal mutilations linked to UFOs, to human abductions linked to UFOs, coming up into the century we're in now, that I have had so many frank discussions with people who were either pilots, worked in Minuteman missile silos. My own brother was in one of the, where there was a size of a football field, 300 feet in diameter, glowing orange over Kilo 7 in Malmstrom Air Force Base. And my brother was there in a wing command party. Everybody is getting the beeps and are going off in mission to get close to what this is. And that whole story, but my brother is my firsthand, and he was there. But after the craft itself, which a whole lot of people saw, it rose up and Dopplered to, I think it was 200,000 feet off of radar. And then it just popped out. And all of the people who were in helicopters, jets, in Central Security Command, they all knew this was going on, the radar operators. But after, everybody is told that they're not to talk about it. We all learned about it because of leaks in Clear Intent, which was a book by Larry Fawcett, a police officer in Connecticut, who did a lot of work trying to find out what was behind pilot reports concerning UFOs. And because my own brother was there, and I know my brother, and I know he was telling the truth. But that goes all the way back to 1975.
There's no argument here from me about the fact that there's all kinds of information about incidents like that. For example, Robert Salas and Hastings' great book about UFOs and nukes. And in many of those cases, though, there were no, even though oftentimes people reportedly were warned, they weren't necessarily signing any kind of security agreement or signing a non-disclosure agreement. They were sometimes told just don't talk about it, which is, you know, par for the course in the military, the intelligence community anyway. But there's a big issue there, no question about it. And Representative Gallagher himself raised that at the open public hearing, as you probably saw. He asked about the stories about the interference with nuclear weapons. And so the great thing is that we're now in a position, hopefully, to finally get to the bottom of this. They're mandating a document review. The General Accounting Office is being directed to go back and review UAP documentation from the services all the way back to World War II. The legislation says 47.
And that today, this non-disclosure agreement amendment, would it actually allow people who were military and they've signed NDAs about a UFO encounter, would it allow them to come forward and talk about what
My understanding is that's its intent and purpose, yes.
Retroactive.
Yeah, not to talk to the press about it, but they would be able to go to the UAP office, oversight office, and talk to them about it, or they would be able to approach Capitol Hill without fear that the Air Force would prosecute them or discharge them under, dishonorably or something like that.
Okay, so that's one thing a little more clear, that if this amendment joins in the Authorization Act and it becomes law, then if somebody had signed an NDA before it became law,
Correct.
it would be retroactive.
That is my understanding, correct.
All right, but they might not be able to stand in front of my camera
Oh, no.
and talk to me.
The Act doesn't say that. I mean, it doesn't unilaterally declassify or attempt to everything related to UAPs. What it attempts to do is establish a procedure within official channels for people in the services and agencies to share information with the office that is now in charge of integrating, collecting all the information within the Defense Department. And then there are some other provisions as well, as you were quoting. And of course, this still has to go to conference. There's different language in the House and Senate. We're not seeing the final version yet. This may change in the conference process when the House and Senate sit down to go over the language together. I know that there are some concerns bubbling up from not surprisingly, from some people in the executive branch who have issues about how this might be implemented and play out. So there's a discussion going on. But soon we'll know. It's not long before we should see the final version of this legislation, and then we'll be able to answer your questions precisely and authoritatively.
Timeline. We are close to October. We're in September. And if you were just outlining what you think is probable, what do you think will be the timeline going forward on this amendment?
I would expect the Defense Authorization Bill, typically it's enacted by year's end. And not the fiscal year, the calendar year.
December.
Right. I would think by year's end, most likely.
And if it fails, that's one option. If it succeeds, would it become law of the land in January of 2023?
Most likely, because the president has 10 days, I believe, to sign the bill once it's passed. If he doesn't, then it's a pocket veto.
From my point of view, 43 years, talking with 3,000 abductees, lots of pilots. We are not alone in this universe. We are on a planet that has a very specific kind of organic life and chemistry, but that other people have told me we know about a lot of other planets, other civilizations. Right now, would you be surprised if the announcement is soon, we're not alone in this universe, it's teeming with consciousness and life, as Roger Penrose and others have said?
I would be very surprised if there was an announcement along those lines soon. So I have a lot of friends and people in the UAP community like yourself and people in the government who are sort of fellow travelers, if you will, or are very interested in this issue. Some of them who actually tell me that, by God, Chris, it's real, there really is this covered up program. You know, I hear that from some credible people.
But they haven't signed NDAs. And
no,
maybe
we're
the other
talking
people
about,
have.
well, no, I mean, the moment you get cleared for classified stuff, right off the bat, you're signing non-disclosure agreements. I agree with what Penrose says and what you're saying. I think there are an infinite number of alien civilizations. But I don't know that we're going to have any proof or evidence of that, or there's going to be any announcement about that anytime soon.
And An Alien Harvest, my book on the animal mutilations and reports, has tremendous amounts of numbers of documents, photographs. And in that very puzzling and difficult subject, there are thousands of people who have seen lights, beams over pastures,
No
and have
question.
seen animals rise up in beams of light. And that is one of the hard eyewitness pieces. And if it's all connected, then the multiple facets
If it's all connected,
are complicated.
If it's all connected is a significant if. This is complex stuff, and it's important for all of us to be as precise as we can and be very careful, because those of us who are trying to establish the credibility of the UAP issue and before the American people and the public and their representatives, and encourage further investigation. I am of the view that there's smoke, and where there's smoke, there's often fire, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And that's what I think Representative Gallagher is interested in, and the House and Senate oversight committees. Hopefully, in another year or two, we'll know the truth on all this, and we won't have to speculate. Hopefully, the documents will come to light, and we'll have the bottom line. We brought forward authentic DoD videos. We brought forward DoD pilots who could speak to it firsthand, and that's the kind of information we need to continue to bring forward.
And so, the question remains, is Congress running out of time to pass UFO whistleblower protection? But hopefully Chris Mellon is correct that it could still happen by December. And with that, Ian, I want to give you a digital hug and say hello, since we all were together in Barcelona, that it has been a trying couple of weeks for me around the terrible COVID, but it's wonderful to be back with our digital world and with all of you.
Linda, it's great to have you back, and congratulations on 218,000 subscribers.
Oh, great. It's wonderful to have it keep ticking up, even while we have had all of these unexpected delays and interruptions. But I hope that those of you tonight who are concerned about how do we open up more and more about the facts and the real documents and get past the arguments that tend to mesh down in are there UFOs or not. All of that is behind us, and that we are now in a brand new era in which our government is struggling to get out more and more facts and truth about the fact that there are advanced technologies interacting with our planet that are clearly not man-made, and that the next big step needs to evolve into frank and honest discussions about what other intelligences interact and what is in our interstellar neighborhood. And once that starts opening up, I think that we will have unlimited numbers of people and programs that keep opening up more and more facts instead of confusions. So on that note, welcome everybody. And Ian, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us an update about what countries are here and to move toward question and answer.
Thank you, Linda. Well, we're joined from people from all over the world. As per usual, we've got people from all over the UK, Northern Ireland, many parts of Europe tuning in tonight, Brazil, New Zealand, Australia, and wherever. So thank you.
Well, good. I'm glad to have this feeling. It needs to be a global discussion that keeps expanding. So what have we got up on your first tier of questions? Okay,
just before we do, I also want to say some of our viewers are on the East Coast at the moment, and they're suffering quite badly with the hurricane that's taking place.
Yeah.
We're also experiencing some heavy rain here in the UK, and the UK news here says the UK is braced for heavy rain and 60-mile-an-hour winds amid fallout from the hurricane as well.
Wow.
Okay. I'm going to go straight to one of the questions, which is here from, it's a comment really. Christina Ledesma Jimenez says, real conversations tonight. Bravo Earthfiles, truth is being told tonight. So that's an interesting comment there.
Yeah.
People are saying about the Chris Mellon interview as well. They're glad to see that you're talking with him and that you actually sat down with him. Was he at all nervous at all to tell you any of the things that he told you this evening on the broadcast that you aired this evening, Linda?
No, I think that Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo and their colleagues honestly would like to see an expansion having to do with observables that they have labeled, there can be 8 or 9 or 10 depending upon the category, that the UFO phenomena is unique in being able to do things that our matter world physics we're not doing in our planes, and that what hopefully is going to happen is that they will pass this NDAA amendment. It will then make it easier for pilots and people who work in professional, whether it's intel, engineering, aerospace, that they can have dialogues with their superiors without worrying about some kind of penalty. The next big broad area is getting all of this started into professional avenues that would end up being reported as hard news and hard fact, not speculation. And whether that's going to happen in 2023, I hope so, because I'm still counting that the possibility of April 2023 could still be a month on a calendar in which there may be headlines related to the James Webb discovering a kind of chemistry in an atmosphere that might be linked specifically to organic life. And once a headline like that breaks open, then we are pushing forward the huge, heavy data that has been held back for 80 years since World War II, that we're not alone in this universe, that it is teeming with life. As Roger Penrose and others have said, consciousness is everywhere. And we need to break through that sort of artificial border that has been placed between what is the reality of the universe and what we have been told on Earth. So I personally think that, and in discussions, that Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo and others would like to see this evolve through more videos, more pilot testimonies, hard facts, setting the stage for perhaps the big headline that we're not alone in the universe. So I'm hoping that's going to happen in 2023.
Thank you, Linda. I also wanted to say a big shout out to all the people who came up and saw us at Barcelona at the conference. We got several people who just came up and spent time with us and saw us and spent time with you, asking you questions after your presentations. So a big shout out to all those people who came up to speak to us. Sonia, Robert, Ricardo, Marina, Michelle from Colombia, Bernadetta from Italy, Susan from Honduras, Shelley from Texas, Jesse, the Swedes, Alan Steinfeld of New Realities, and all the people from Denmark, Netherlands, Argentina, and Germany who came up and spoke to us.
Right. It was really, there were wonderful discussions. And I think one of our favorite places, even if we didn't get to it very often, was the big blue pool on top of the Barcelona hotel, open to the night sky, where the discussions were far-ranging and fascinating.
Yeah, we had some good memories of that rooftop bar on the 8th floor.
Yeah.
That was an excellent location for those late night chats.
What have you got?
Linda,
yeah, go ahead.
Just going to go ahead with some more questions. Mark from the UK, he sends love from the UK and says, if anyone gets to meet intelligent life from other star systems, it should be you. I would love to know all your questions you will be asking.
Well, I agree. I cannot think of anything that is more exciting than feeling that we are on the verge, finally, of breaking open. We're not alone in this universe, and that what is on the other side of that headline in terms of learning about other planets and physics and other biologies and inorganics and everything that is just waiting in a huge new way of an interaction with the universe. It excites me to my core. And I joke, I would like to live another 500 years to see how all of this keeps unfolding, but a big part of me would. And this is part of exhilaration when there is truth in front of you and it's going to break open. And then we will be in a whole new world and relationship with the cosmos. And I think that's where we're headed. And that's why I'm doing Earthfiles YouTube channel. And it is wonderful to get your letters, to get your own experiences. And I'm trying to also match what you send me with people that I know working in science, working in medicine, who have insights and are finally beginning to feel like that they could start sharing in interviews where they had not felt comfortable before. So it could be that 2023, in spite of all the other problems that the Earth is facing, we might begin to have a new spring in these subjects as we go forward with more and more data coming from Webb and beyond. And so let's keep the Earthfiles YouTube channel going and interacting. I will keep interacting as much as I can with subjects that you want me to explore. So what else do we have, Ian?
Okay, so Dan Kozłowski says, welcome back live Earthfiles. Re-UFOs, how likely is it that most UAP are not projected in frequency that could be visible to humans' eyes, but was visible via camera lenses with polarized glass?
I think that that has been a common physics aspect of the UFO phenomena, and I think our government caught on to that going all the way back to the World War II type, that the ability, I've written this before, the ability for the other intelligences to use invisibility in craft, bodies, and everything that they do. Invisibility is one of the strengths of the non-human presences. And some people say to me, well, doesn't that make them scary? I personally don't interact or react to it that way. I think of it as if you are sophisticated and advanced and you can cross light years in a few Earth days, then whatever your interest is on planet Earth, being able to observe without being seen would be part of it. There could be that there are strategies in these conflicts that allegedly exist between three different civilizations. We've heard that from Adam Burns in New York. We've heard that from military people. We've heard that from a lot of sources that there is conflict. And in that conflict, the ability for different intelligences to use different parts of our own planet for their bases. The Nordics going down beneath the basins of the oceans, the seas, and the lakes. The Greys going inside of mountain ranges such as the Himalayas. The reptilians going deep underground in desert areas. All of that seems now to me just to be logical. It doesn't scare me. I am fascinated. I would like to learn more. And that is where, to me, the health on the planet will begin to move forward when more and more of this is out in the open. Why would Congress be referring to UFO threats exponentially increasing in headlines without explanation for what is the exponential threat that is increasing? And if there is a threat that is extraterrestrial, that is increasing from non-human intelligences in non-human made craft, then we all on planet Earth should learn about what the so-called power brokers know. And eventually, then maybe we would be on a planet that would not be so quick to fight and kill each other, because we would know that there was some bond in being Homo sapiens sapien. I feel that strongly, and I hope that the direction that we go is to open up the truth. And the old phrase, the truth will set you free, it certainly would be better than constantly being exposed to manipulated information that bears no relationship to what is actually happening. So on that note, Ian, we've got time for more questions.
Yeah, before we go to the next question, I'd just like to say thank you to the audience, the generosity of the super chats this evening. So I'm going to go through the list of super chats. Here we go. Moonbird, Zeus of Drinkwater F1, who I believe was in Barcelona too. Jessica Rodriguez, Shane Payne, Mark Petrie, Terry, Deborah McGavitt, Leo Lindsay, Lily Boop, Stans Kozłowski, Sarah Underwood, Strange Paradigms, and Fabian Farber.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And Moonbird, I hope all is going well. And it has been a much longer time than I thought that I would be away. And it is wonderful that you guys are all back tonight. Thank you.
Okay, here's a question. Well, it's a statement really from Vicky Vibe. She says, I truly believe humanity is ready to know the truth about our galactic neighbours. I also believe most will be very upset to know that vital information has been withheld for so long. That's just my opinion.
Well, yes, it is. It goes to the heart of what I think is a profound issue. What kind of planet should Homo sapiens sapien be living on? We were planted here. We are a genetic manipulation from my point of view, from everything I know. So that means humans are an experiment. And if they're an experiment by competing extraterrestrial civilizations that are testing something about organic life, and maybe that is why we are pitted between light and dark, whatever is the true big picture, the one gigantic piece that we should all be striving forward for is what is the whole truth. The whole truth, our origins, what interacts with our planet, and all the other intelligences. As I understand, there are many, many that are in this universe. And for us to be specifically denied that knowledge, it makes no sense. So this is the breaking point, let's hope, out of the suppression and into light, and that the light, we all have to be prepared, that not everything is rosy, not everything is peaceful. That's given for life on Earth. So why should it be any different for other intelligences in this universe? What we should all agree on is that humans deserve to know the whole huge story. That's what I strive for. Okay, Ian?
I guess this other comment just follows on from that. Tish Eastman says, why do we put all the trust in the military sources that are, if nothing else, corrupt and have a history of propaganda on these issues instead of the bulk of experiencer reports globally?
Well, I will stand up with defense on so many of the people in military and intel that I have been able to talk to over the last 4.5 decades. So many are really good and intelligent people who themselves are troubled by what they have been exposed to and feel that humanity deserves the whole big picture truth, even if they don't understand more than a little piece. That's the problem. Everything is so compartmentalized. It is compartmentalized to such a degree that you could have 1,000 people working in the Pentagon on some aspect of it, and it would be like that old story that some people thought they were operating on an elephant, other people thought it was a tiger, some people thought it was an octopus, because all of it was so compartmentalized that nobody could get a big picture. Well, if you share with me the excitement of going way beyond all of that, and really understanding the profound truths that we are looking at in this universe and what we are and what all life form is, then this is an exciting time, not one to feel fear, but to keep evolving and helping people in military and intel and in medicine and in science who want to break out. Gary Nolan at Stanford University, he has been putting himself on the line in a lot of courageous ways, talking about genetic manipulation from his point of view. And we need more and more and more of that. And then suddenly we'll be in a global dialogue about the huge paradigm shift that we're not alone in this universe, never have been, and that you all, with your own experiences coming to me, and I can share some of them, it all helps, I think, push this truth out more and more. And it gives the people who are in control, I sometimes feel tremendous sympathy for some of the people who have the burden of keeping complex, unbelievable information to themselves, when the best thing would be for all of us to understand and evolve together. So I feel compassion for the people that have been in military and science and medicine and on, who do have pieces of this truth and that they can't share. And maybe this is going to be the revolution, to be on a planet where finally we're all going to be able to share the truth about our own history, about other life forms, and what is the true nature of what is going on in the interstellar neighborhood where we are. Okay, Ian?
I think that's the core of it as well, is that we've seen firsthand a lot of people who are very frustrated because they know that the phenomena exists and that they've experienced these things. But it's waiting, as we say, and in your very important interview with Chris Mellon about the future of how this is going to be. People, military whistleblowers, who are going to be allowed to speak out about their experiences and add weight to those already experiences and people who know about the phenomena.
Yeah, I just want to underline one thing again, because Chris Mellon and we made sure that I understood what he was saying. If this legislation is passed, the whistleblower protection will be between, let's say, Scientist A, Aerospace B, Military Intel Analyst D, and their superiors, where people have been published or punished by their superiors for even bringing up the word UFO or ET or alien in the past. What would happen now is that there could be frank and honest dialogues without worrying about punishment. If you are in a specific job and you have encountered a UFO or ETs, and then you would have protection to go to your superior and tell the truth without repercussions. The next big layer of this would be when people who have firsthand experiences can actually be interviewed by media, reporters such as myself and others, and that it would become part of the growing news dialogue of the Earth, interactions by pilots, by doctors, by scientists, by engineers, by aerospace, with other intelligences. And that's where I hope we get to faster than slower. But in the meantime, all of these people who have served professionally and then have faced being ostracized or hurt politically inside of their work because they have reported a UFO, reported an ET, this is what this new legislation would allegedly stop. And that would be a healthy step. If people in our government, in our military, in science, would be able to talk with each other without worrying that they would be punished for describing the truth of extraterrestrial biological entities interacting with the Earth. So keep that as this is a big step. And then after, maybe eventually it's going to be where people can talk with the public without being penalized. Okay, Ian?
Pamela Jean makes the point in the chat this evening that she views the ETs as a threat that she's lived with for 26 years. And Tish says, if nothing else, the experiences will be emotional support for the deniers that are in panic mode when reality does dawn.
And the thing I would add is threats. We're dealing with many different categories of intelligences, many different categories of goals, intents, and that there might be a bell-shaped curve of everything from being loving, compassionate, in sync with light, all the way to the opposite. And that this universe encompasses all of it in a bell-shaped curve of all types. When it comes to my experiences with interviewing so many people in the human abduction syndrome, that there are definitely categories of types. But what I have come to learn more and more is that the types, as they proliferate, might be the products of artificial intelligence, robotics, cyborgism, by maybe, let's say, only 10 prime intelligences. I'm just pulling this out to make a point, not that that's a fact. Let's say that there were 10 prime progenitors, and that they're responsible for making all kinds of everything from organic to AI. When we on Earth, totally uneducated, not at all educated about other life in the universe, then have an interaction with any of these multiple possibilities, ranging from inorganic to organic, we don't have any lens, filter, help in which to understand. And so you get maybe 1,000 stories and people think there's 1,000 different beings when it might be 5, all responsible for all of these different phenomena interacting with humans. And once you begin to look at it through that lens, then who are the major progenitor intelligences that have had a vested interest in this solar system and in this planet? Where are they today? If their bases are on Earth, why are they still here? And what are the goals? And that we could be introduced to all of that, like my title that I shared in Barcelona, non-humans, friendly, neutral, hostile, question mark. And once we started having dialogues as a species about what our true relationship is historically and currently and going into the future, it might actually help humanity to evolve better with itself. And that's how I think how complex all of this is. The layers are many, the types are huge, but the truths, why are they so difficult to be discussed? All right, I think we have time for 1 or 2 more, Ian.
Just before we do, Linda, can you just remind everyone to like and subscribe, please?
Oh, well, thank you. I am so grateful that we continue to grow, even with the unexpected absence of me for longer than I thought this time. You all hung in there with me. Thank you so much. And I would like to urge you, if you haven't subscribed, click on that, I think it's a red something in the lower right corner, and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us with YouTube. And if you like what we do here at the Earthfiles YouTube channel, click on the likes.
Linda, we've got a question here from Chin X Phase. He says, is it correct that when we see these hybrids that's in amongst us in everyday life, and we met several people in Barcelona who had actually met hybrids or had contact with non-humans like this, you could say, I see you in your mind whilst looking at the hybrid, and they'll turn and look directly at you as they hear your inner voice?
Well, the telepathic aspect of hybrids and full-blood ETs and AI, all of it, that has always been one of the marked characteristics for decades that humans have understood, that the communication with the non-humans is largely telepathic. And that I have heard similarities around what you just described of people going into a store and suddenly having a thought voice that comes into their head. And it might be something as simple as, I am only 10 feet from you and I'm saying hello, or some complexity that goes further. And in this whole kind of big mystery of what is the actual relationship now between Homo sapiens sapien and many types of non-humans who are existing on the planet, coexisting with us, still in a non-public way, are the telepathic thought words that are put every once in a while in people's minds, are they tests? Are they in the category of, can we manipulate? And that's the part that's not clear. Telepathy is not the way humans communicate with each other, but humans are highly intuitive. And it may be that in the non-humans, telepathy is the major way of communicating, and that it will spill over into the sensitivities of humans as a feeling, as I had an intuition. It felt like I was afraid to go there. I was drawn this way. And that's the middle ground between the pure telepathic and the pure verbal human, are what we would call sensitives and sensitivities and thought words. And it seems to me that that would be a positive evolution if that increased. Okay, Ian, one more.
Okay, Linda, we've got to probably a very time-appropriate one here from Callie Richard. He says, aliens, are they here to protect the Earth from nuclear war?
That's an excellent question. And I always run up against what seems like a contradiction every time that question comes up or I'm in discussion with people, and here's the contradiction. Many people in the abduction syndrome have said that grays, talls, blondes, blues, that they've all warned you will not be allowed to release atomic or hydrogen bombs that tear into other dimensions you know nothing about. But let's just set that over there and say that it could be a distinct rule that progenitor ETs have. But now go back to July to August of 1945. We have scientists here in New Mexico, down at White Sands, up in Los Alamos, Oppenheimer working on the atomic bomb. They release a test on July 16th, 1945 at what is known as the Trinity site, melted the sand, creating the green trinitite. And then in early August, we take 2 more of these bombs and we drop one on Nagasaki and one on Hiroshima. And we kill a lot of people and animals. And if the non-humans had a strict rule, we will not allow humans to launch nuclear weapons because you tear into dimensions you know nothing about, then why wasn't the July 16th, 1945 atomic bomb test at White Sands stopped? Why were bombs allowed to be dropped onto Nagasaki and Hiroshima? That to me is one of the most puzzling contradictions that I know. So for those of you who might be here tonight, who might have first-hand military, science, medical, or other information about that contradiction, or any of the other confusions about what exactly is the relationship between Earth Homo sapiens sapien and a multitude of AI and progenitor ETs, go to Earthfiles at earthfiles.com. You can send me emails to establish connection. There's also ProtonMail, which is, I think, relatively secure. And there are handwritten letters. And I find that you all use all of them. And that maybe this whole big question, if ETs threaten that they will stop nuclear war on Earth, why didn't they stop the bombs in 1945? It's wonderful to be back. May none of you get COVID. It's horrible, but I'm feeling much better, and I feel strengthened and re-energized being here with you tonight. And Serena, again, thank you for the beautiful heart and the beautiful flowers. A welcome back after 2 months away. God bless all of you, now and forever.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white Settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.